Trying to go live. There we go. Good morning. Welcome to Her Laundry Unfolded. I'm joined this morning with the lovely Sarah Spang. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. It's beautiful out. Well, you're in Wisconsin too, so.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. I wish I could just be outside, but I've got too much going on inside.
You and me both. Well, we're going to probably visit my sister at her campground this evening, so maybe a little bonfire, which would be nice. So
Yeah.
So I'm just going to jump right in this morning. I'd like to just, get started and have you introduce yourself and give us a little background.
Yeah, so again, I'm Sarah Spang. I am in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, born and raised. So been here the past 31 years of my life.
Wow.
I've had a really great career for the past couple of years, or past 8 years actually, in the economic development world. Have gone through a lot of different roads and pathways when it comes to my education, and just being the person that I am today. So I guess I'm excited to see where this conversation takes us.
Yeah, and I always like to go from like the challenges and to the mindset shifts to the success because I like to leave on a high note. Because I don't think I've ever met somebody who's found success, no matter what that means to them, who haven't gone through some major challenges in life. And of course, some people have like a lot different challenges than others, that leave deeper scars. So, if you want to take us back to some of your earliest challenges.
Yeah, sure. So I've been thinking about this, since last night, how I kind of wanted to kick this off.
Right.
I think I came into this world independent and wanting to just do things my way. And that's very contrary to what actually needs to be done when you're a child or
True.
when you're growing up. You need help, you need guidance. And that was just something that since day one, I never really took to.
Wow.
I always wanted to be the one making decisions, whether I was, 4 years old with no concept of what decision making was.
Right.
I still always wanted to be in charge and always wanted to have the last say. And that's kind of where a lot of problems then started because I get that streak from my parents, and you can't have that many independent, strong voices all under one roof without some problems coming along the way.
I imagine.
Yeah. So, I guess for pretty much my entire living with my parents' life, we were at constant war with one another. There was always a fight. There was always not speaking to one another. There was always a looming tension in the air. And that really became hard to deal with as I became older. And that was just, piling on top of one another.
Right.
All of those negative feelings and those hurt feelings and words that we wish we could have all taken back.
Right.
But
probably a lot of power struggles, especially for a household full of independent people. I imagine there's just a constantly power struggle.
Yeah. My dad, for the most part, he kind of like stepped back and was just like, okay, this is between Sarah and mom.
Yeah.
So it was just very difficult for both of us, for, I guess, my mom and I especially, to understand that we were individuals with differing opinions from time to time.
Right.
And, it didn't really matter, how old I was getting or anything like that. It was still like, no, you're the child. You're going to listen to me. And then I'm, always butting heads and saying no.
I'm my own person. I do what I want.
Absolutely. So all of that just tension and pure dislike and sometimes hatred for the family within itself was really a struggle then, as I started to get even a little bit older and become my own real person,
Right.
So I had to understand and kind of take back my individuality, because it had just been so wrapped up in all of this tension and all of this, wanting to have my say and then it not happening. And there's a lot of ball of tension from, let's say birth to 24.
And I can imagine with that, you probably don't feel supported because, with that headbutting, and you're trying to do your thing, and your mom's like, no, I'm the boss. Where's the support in that? So I imagine that that's kind of a falling out too.
Yeah. It definitely was not good for us. As we'll talk, things are definitely, it's a complete 180 how different things are now.
Right.
But, at that time in my life, we spent many months, even close to years, sometimes just not speaking, because we literally could not see eye to eye with one another, or even accept that we weren't going to see eye to eye,
Right. And that I'm sure manifests in different ways. I mean, I think about it, maybe your teenage life, what that looks like. I mean, even a child who's very well supported and who doesn't have that, they go through so many ups and downs and becoming who they are. So, how does that start to manifest for you?
Yeah, for me, it really manifested into a lot of anxiety, depression, and just straight up acting out.
Right.
I look back at that time and think to myself, like, I didn't actually want to do those things. I didn't want to run away. I didn't want to try to commit suicide. I didn't really want to say the hurtful things I was saying, but there was just no other way in my mind to take out all the frustration that was happening. So, I had to take things to a complete extreme to feel like I was getting heard or, even acknowledged. And sometimes that just made things way worse, because then how do you respond to someone who's just so over the top? Well, sometimes you have to get over the top right back. And it was just this very vicious cycle of all of us doing and saying things that we never would have normally done.
Right. It's almost like you're probably like in this hopeless, state of mind where you want to be this person, but yet you're not being encouraged and supported and kind of nurtured in the way that you needed.
Right. And, even as I got into a little bit of, my older years, late teens, as I was thinking about, okay, what's next for me? Am I going to go to school more? Am I going to go into work? And really, just because of how much animosity there was within, under that roof, there wasn't support for whatever decision I was going to make. I had gotten accepted into a college, and it became, well, how are you going to do that? We're not going to help. You're going to get kicked out. You don't have a job, all of this. So how are you going to make it work? Well, okay, I guess I'm not doing that. Well, okay, well, what if I want to work full time? Oh, so you're just giving up on education and your life.
Wow.
And it's like, okay, so I can't win either way.
Right. And that's like, I can't imagine your self-esteem and your confidence have got to be just bottoming out at this point.
Oh, for sure. It took so many years to get to any point of self-esteem.
Right.
But at that point in my life, I was starting to reach out to my school counselors and things like that. And, there's still just a fine line of how much they can really help too.
Right.
They can't really step into the household unless there's, violence or something like that, which there wasn't.
Right.
It was more just the emotional stuff, which, as bad as that is, that's
Yeah.
not illegal. So,
Right. Right. And that's what's hard, because that sometimes can scar deeper than some of the physical stuff.
right. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then where do you go from there? Okay, so that you're looking at college, and so, where does that take you from there then?
Yeah, from there, I guess I'll just go to, I've graduated high school.
Mm-hmm.
I am working a part-time gig in the evenings, and I'm just kind of sitting in my bedroom at that home and going, okay, well, I don't know what to do. I don't
Right.
have any direction. There seems to be no support.
Yeah.
To the credit of my parents, there was this little sliver of a doorway that opened, and they threw a brochure for the local technical college at me and said,
Okay.
pick something, do something with your life. And
That's good.
yeah, so,
Something.
right. So that's what I did. I went for a technical diploma right after high school. But within that time, it was okay, I got to pay for that. And so I ended up taking out a line of credit through my bank to pay for it at,
Right.
19. And then about halfway through that, I did get kicked out of the house just purely for the sake of not getting along with one another.
Wow.
I was at my then boyfriend's house
Mm-hmm.
just hanging out, and I come home and all of my stuff is packed up and sitting on the porch.
Oh my gosh.
And so I call him and I'm like, well, get the family, get trucks. We're gonna need to,
Right.
this is what our evening is now.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, so I packed up in the middle of the night, or I was packed up, I should say.
Right, but that's still pretty traumatizing to come home and see all your stuff. Like, hey, you've been evicted basically from your, childhood home.
Basically. The we had the foresight though, kind of knowing that this was going to happen. It had
I'm
been
sure.
threatened more often than not.
Yeah.
There was a time when I was still in high school yet that I did leave, and I went to like a rooming house situation,
Wow.
which was very unsafe. And so thankfully everyone came to their senses within that afternoon.
Good.
So, I moved into a place and moved out the same day.
Right, good.
Right, that was good. But, when I was officially evicted, I guess, we had the foresight within my boyfriend's family at that time to say this is going to happen. So Sarah's going to live in the extra room here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did for 6 months. Is I was able to pay off my car at the time, and then be able to have enough money to get my own apartment after I graduated from my diploma program. So, I was signing a lease at the age of 19
Oh my gosh.
for, my first real apartment.
Right. And I think about like what you've gone through to that point even. I mean, to take responsibility for doing what you did anyways, to pay off the bills and get on your lease. I mean, most people in that situation don't usually go that route. Usually, they'll end up homeless or, in a different situation. So, I mean,
yeah,
huge kudos.
Thanks. I mean, I knew that as bad of a situation as I was in, and I recognized then that it was not good. It was not healthy.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to have a decent home that was secure, that was, it was part of a apartment community, locked doors, all of that. I'm not really a roommate person, so I had to be able to afford it myself.
Right.
And, I had to pay off some of those things to get to that point. So, I was thankful that at that point, I'll think, although things didn't go well in the end, that family was able to support me and say, okay, you need a few months to establish what your roots are going to be.
Right.
And they gave me that opportunity, rent free and just kind of, under a safer roof so that I could kind of heal and kind of just get my bearings of what I wanted to do next. And
Right.
that no pressure environment, that was just there for me was really what started to make everything change.
Like a catalyst, like suddenly you had people who saw you and said, okay, we're going to help you grow, where you felt like maybe you were stifled in your in your own home.
Right.
Wow. So you have your own place, and what's happening now. You're trying to heal, and
Yeah. I did get my own place, and I kind of almost ended up in a second batch of mess.
oh,
So I didn't, after I was on my own and starting to, think of things differently with relationships and stuff like that,
mhm,
I was not making good decisions and treating people correctly. And then also, as I was still in that apartment for a little while, I turned 21 there. And
enter alcohol.
enter alcohol.
I think it's very common too for that age bracket too.
Right. So, and at the time I had an older friend that I made within the building.
Mhm.
And, we would just hang out and drink wine all the time. And so, once I turned 21, it became this, okay, so I'm just
Yeah.
going to do this.
Right. This is my thing now.
Right. This is Wisconsin. I am a Wisconsin girl.
Yeah. This is what we
Yeah.
do.
Exactly. So that kind of became a second storm again of problems because I realized that I don't completely equate it to everything that happened in the years before, but there
Right.
definitely was a numbing that was happening.
Yeah.
It was very easy at the end of the day to say, okay, I can drink myself to sleep.
Right.
And I don't even have to think about what I did at work today, or
Right.
I don't have to talk to anybody. I can just drink and be done.
Right. And I've heard this from people who have kind of fallen into that, with the alcohol. And I have found people who are very independent or maybe who are trying to control their lives, that's just a way to kind of like, I don't gotta think about it now. I'm gonna drink and now I can just actually relax.
Right. That's exactly it. That
Yeah.
was my coping mechanism.
Right.
It was my way of saying, okay, I have control. I need to be in control all day, every day.
Right.
But, maybe at the end of the day, I just need to do something that will start getting me chill and relaxed.
Right.
And that became what it was.
Right.
So, enter 21, and the problem started pretty much immediately. I remember I went to the grocery store right after I turned 21, and the entire grocery cart was packed with booze.
Oh.
I could barely push it to the checkout line.
Oh.
And the judgment I got for that was pretty big.
I imagine.
Yeah, but they also saw, on my ID, I had just turned 21, and they're
Right.
like, okay, you're just stocking your bar.
Right.
Most people don't do it like this, but you're an overachiever.
Right.
So, I basically set myself up to be able to have access to whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted it.
Right.
And I took that up upon myself. So yeah, the drinking became just so problematic and yet also so prevalent in my
Mm.
life. Whether it was the decor I had in my kitchen, it was all wine related, or using bar glasses all the time. And,
Right.
I was making it known, like, this is just my life now.
Right.
Yeah.
And so how does that spill over then into your daytime life? Because I imagine if you're drinking pretty heavily in the evenings to relax, how does that spill over then into your daytime?
Yeah. So at that point, I am working full time. Um, at my first real big kid job, I guess you could say, it didn't really help that there was also a culture of drinking there.
Hmm.
So, we may open up a bottle of wine at 4 o'clock, and
Oh,
I'm still working, but now I have a glass of wine in front of me.
right.
And we also just got to know each other so well, my former boss and I, and we're still very close, and actually now both recovering from
Wow.
alcohol. Um, but we almost were feeding off each other a little bit, and
Hmm.
so it just was normalized.
Right.
And then switching over to the job that I have now, it's the business world. You go to these after hours functions, and there's always a
Hmm.
bar.
Of course.
There's always that expectation, and so there never seemed to be the opportunity to stop.
Right.
Um,
Because it's
there
part of your
were
everyday. Yeah, it's part of your everyday, and everyone around you is doing it. So
Mhm.
it's not a problem because everyone's doing it.
Absolutely, yeah. I was already just, even a couple years into all of that, realizing how much of a problem it was becoming. Because I would get, absolutely trashed and still drive home that night.
Oh man.
I cannot believe I didn't get a single DUI. I
Wow.
definitely jumped enough curbs and took some very big risks,
Yeah.
but thankfully never hurt anybody, never hurt
Right.
myself, driving. But drinking and driving then also just became natural for me, which
Right.
is terrible.
Yeah. It's routine. That's what you were doing, you know?
Right. Um, so, I tried to stop a number of times because I was recognizing that it was becoming a problem. And
Yeah.
then, I would be good for a couple of weeks, and then I would be at a function for work. And it's like, oh, hey, Sarah, what can I buy you? And it's like, okay, well, that lasted long.
Right.
Or,
Right.
I have a rough day at work, and on my way home, I pass by how many gas stations, and it's just
Hmm.
so easy to pull in.
Well,
And
yeah. And so, you
yeah.
know what? Screw it. Just, it's been a rough day. I'm just going to do this tonight. I'll get back, to it tomorrow.
Yep, that was always it. It was there's always tomorrow.
Yeah. I'll start again tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So where is there a turning point then? Because obviously it's probably like a kind of like you're on the wheel now, where okay, I'm going to stop, but oh, it's had a rough day, or we're going to this function, and now I need to kind of fit in too because it's gonna be weird if now I don't drink when everyone else is.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
where's your turning point?
Yeah, the turning point for me is I was actually at one of the larger festivals here in Fond du Lac.
Hmm.
And, it was a daytime thing. And because it's a large thing, there's booze starting in the
Right.
morning. So I had started drinking that morning, came home and was still drinking and still drinking.
Hmm.
And I got so drunk and just blackout that I fell in my bathroom into my bathtub.
Oh
I
wow.
hit my head on the faucet super bad
Oh my.
and ended up getting a concussion from that.
Oh my.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was
Hmm.
it was terrible. It happened to be a good time when my mom and I were talking to one another again, and she
Okay.
happened to be there. Um, and she just kind of went. berserk and didn't really know what to do. She understood
Right.
like what was happening, but she had also been drinking with me. So
Hmm.
it's like neither one of us was going to help.
Right.
Um, so she ended up grabbing my phone and calling some friends, and they ended up, I found this out actually very recently because I didn't remember it.
Okay.
But some friends were the ones that got me out of the tub and got me, cleaned up. And what I do remember is that evening, we were all just sitting in my living room talking and
Hmm.
saying like, hey, this has gone too far now.
Yeah.
I had been in the hospital a number of times because I had drank so much that, I basically had alcohol poisoning.
Wow.
And now we're looking at like, do I now have like brain damage because of
Right. Yeah, and that's a real thing.
right? Like that was
Yeah.
kind of huge. Like my head was just so black and blue, and
Oh my God.
the gash was so large on my forehead that they were like, we don't know what's going to happen now.
Right.
So that was what did it.
Okay. Kind of
That
like a little intervention in a way.
Yeah, it was kind of that intervention that I needed, and it needed to be that severe for me to grasp it.
Right.
I'm not somebody, like you had said, it's easy to fall back into habits,
Mhm.
and I I even couldn't like get through it when I would go to the hospital and like get pumped with fluids and stuff. It's like that didn't really make any difference to me.
Right.
It took something astronomical and possibly life changing, and then I finally said, "Okay, I get it."
Right. And I think that happens for many people in that situation because, the alcohol poisoning, unless they're restarting your heart, you think, okay, it's fine. I'm not going to die from this when you could.
Right.
But I can see where the huge gash and like, oh, okay, this is life changing. I could really cause myself some serious damage here.
Right. Yeah. So after I had also then gone to the hospital for that and gotten checked out, and they were like, okay, you're actually okay. Like there's no swelling, there's no bleeding, it's very superficial and just nasty.
Right.
They recommended that I take a week off of work to heal.
Wow.
So, it was impacting my life in that way.
Yeah.
I very rarely was getting hangovers at that time. So I didn't really need to like call in sick.
Right.
But this was like, I've done something so catastrophic that I need to actually take a week off of work to heal.
Yeah.
And
And
so,
that's
yeah,
a
that was
week is a lot.
yeah. So that was really then what did it for me was like, okay, this is not the life I want to live. I don't want to die from this, in my 20s.
Right.
I want to do better. And so, I made that very clear to my friends who, were all in their 20s as well. So they had to change how they acted around me for a bit.
Wow.
And I spent a number of months away from my friends entirely. I was saying to them, like, I don't care if you drink,
Mhm.
but I just can't be around it right now.
Right.
I don't have the willpower to say no. So, you do what you want in your house, but I'm just not going to be there.
Right. And
Yeah.
that had to be a huge step for you in and of itself, because I mean, from what you've said, you're very independent. You don't really like to ask for help like in your earlier years and stuff. And now you have these friends who you have to be very like kind of blunt with, like, this is my life now. This is what it's going to look like. This is what I need from you.
Right. I mean, now that we're almost 5 years in,
Yeah.
they get it, and even they've started to change, now that we're all in our 30s,
Hmm.
none of us were thinking of like getting trashed every night anymore.
Right.
So they kind of, were growing up too, as I was saying, like, no, this isn't what I'm doing anymore.
Right.
But yeah, we had to get very used to the fact, like, no, I'm not going to grab that bottle. And some friends have started to have other things on hand for when I come over.
Right.
And, are really thinking about me in that way rather than what I used to be. So
Right.
it was a mindset for all of us.
Right. But that's really cool that because I've heard so many stories where people quit drinking and they lose their friends.
Yeah.
I've heard more of that than having like your situation where how awesome is that they're like, we're going to support you through this. We get it. We'll have other things on hand. I mean, and especially like you said, from like growing up with really not that much support to now surrounding yourself with people who are there and giving you that support. I imagine that's, lend a hand in helping you get to that 5-year sober mark.
It definitely has. And that was something I was definitely worried about those other times when I would try here and there to not drink was like, okay, if I don't, do I alienate my friends?
Right.
Do I alienate them because I want to do better for myself, which seems, like crazy almost.
Right.
But yeah, that was absolutely a worry. And of course, it wasn't easy, especially right away, especially
Sure.
when I'm saying, like, I understand everyone is getting together tonight, but I just can't put myself in those situations. And, we had to just kind of grapple with what that was going to mean for our friendship. But
Mhm.
yeah, they've all stuck around, and that's incredible.
That's awesome. Very proud of you for everything that you've gone through and, to be 5 years sober and to recognize when you needed help, when it was kind of rock bottom, and then to be able to say to your friends, this is what I need you to do for help. And then kudos to them for sticking around and helping you get to where you're at. So, so what does life look like now? I mean, to go through so many different things and stages in your life, where have you found your successes then?
Yeah, I mean, life is awesome now. I would say, it was literally that fall that changed everything. So, that was when I was 25 or 26. Um, Everything is just better because I not only quit drinking and quit numbing myself, but I also did get help when I needed it.
Right.
I did go through a number of times of therapy and psychiatric help to kind of like get to a more stable place. And that's something that a lot of people have a hard time just publicly saying, like, oh yeah, I saw a shrink or whatever. It's like, well, I recognized that I needed to in order to move past some of the damage of years previous.
Right.
I recognize that I still have anxiety, and I recognize that I still, am diagnosed with depression, and I take medication for that. And, that's great. It helps me be a person that I want to be.
Yes.
Beyond all of that, I have just really come into being that independent soul and saying to myself, like, I can do what I set myself to do. If in my mind I say I'm going to do it, I can do it. And it's only up to me to make it happen.
Right.
I think that was also part of the issues from like childhood is like, yes, I knew I could do stuff, but also I kind of wanted somebody to just take care of it for me too.
Right. Or push you to do it. Like, okay.
Right. Like, I needed that like cheerleader. If I was the one that would say like, hey, I'm going to do this, I was looking for someone else to say, yeah, do it.
Yeah. Or you can do it. Yeah. And if you need help, I'm here for you, but.
Right. Right. And not having that, I kind of felt stunted for a long time. And I realized I need to be that cheerleader for myself.
Yeah.
So once I came to that realization, I started making just such positive changes in my life. I went back to school again. And I was going to just get my associate degree. And I was just loving going back to school and learning
Mm-hmm.
and also working and doing all these other things. And it
Right.
was just keeping my plate so full, and not in a way that it was like distracting,
Right.
but in a way that I was feeling like everything in me was getting fulfilled. So so after the associate, I went and got my bachelor's.
Oh, cool.
And then after that, I got my master's.
Wow.
So it was just, I was feeling just so much more confident and coming into myself,
Mhm.
and also recognizing that that is a continuous journey of becoming who you are.
Right.
I feel like I came out day one and was thinking, all right, this is who I am. There's nowhere else to go,
Right.
no growth. I am what I am. And coming to the realization of, no, every day you grow. You are never done growing.
Yeah.
It's such a simple concept, and yet one that I had to actually learn.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think with that too is what we do is when we think, okay, this is who I am, we don't leave that room to grow. Excuse me, I'm like, ugh. Let me grab some coffee quick.
No worries.
I think we think, okay, I'm going to aim for this goal, and once I hit it, I'm good.
Right.
You know, I mean, you could have gone for that associate's degree and said, okay, I'm there. I'm stopping. I got it.
Right. Right. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But you know, there was always just more in me.
Right.
And so that's why I just kept looking for those opportunities. And you know, now my parents and I have a really good relationship. We talk so openly about everything. And, you know, we've talked openly about the past too, and acknowledge that I made mistakes, they made mistakes. We can't go back and fix it,
Right.
but we can apologize, we can learn from, we can strive to do better. And we have been. And now we're closer than ever.
That's amazing. I love hearing that when people can get to that point, take responsibility for themselves and say, now we can move forward.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I actually just saw my mom this morning.
Wow.
You know, it took being very open and frank, and
Yeah.
it took them being willing to hear from me saying, like, hey, this messed up. This messed me
Right.
up a bit.
Yeah.
I've been harboring a lot of emotions and issues because of this.
Right.
And, you know, they've completely acknowledged that they've misstepped, and you know they can't go back, but all we can do is go forward and be better adults together now.
I love that they acknowledged it, because a lot of times what we do, especially being a mom myself, you know, I had my oldest daughter come to me before and, you know, want to kind of discuss things and her childhood and how she perceived her childhood and certain things. And at first, you know, as a parent, we're like, oh no, I didn't do that. You know, I'm a good mom. You're calling me a bad mom. It's like instant defense mode.
Right.
But once I let that down and said, no, this is what she saw through her eyes, and I acknowledged that, we were able to have conversations we never would have been able to have before.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, huge props to your parents for acknowledging, you know, and apologizing and getting to that place. And I imagine for you, actually both sides, probably boundaries were probably set as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's very good that, you know, I have my own place, I have my own life, I have my own things going on. You know, it's easier to set realistic boundaries of how
Right.
we interact with one another.
Right.
You know, sometimes I have to remind them, like, okay, no, you don't get to tell me how to clean my house.
Yep.
Like, I know it's dirty, it's gonna be fine.
Right.
But yeah, you know, it's still great that we have come to this new understanding, and we can talk way more openly and accept one another as adults.
Right. That's fantastic. And my aunt always said about the house, if you're coming to see the house, make an appointment. You want to come see me anytime.
Absolutely.
It makes a big difference. So, of course, I know that you do the TEDx in Fond du Lac. So I don't know how you got into that, though. So I'm just so fascinated with how you even, you know, came upon that idea and went and got the license.
Yeah, so yeah, I am the founder and license holder of TEDx Fond du Lac. We would have had year 4 this past summer, but COVID and some of the issues going on in Fond du Lac related to that
Right.
just did not make it feasible. But Wendy, I'm hoping we'll see you next summer.
I hope so too. And but it is what it is. That's what it comes down to. I think you guys made the right call.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a bummer, but
yeah.
it's the best. So
Yeah, yeah. But how it all started was um actually a TEDx event was starting in Oshkosh in 2016.
okay.
And I had actually been um asked by somebody in my office actually to look into, okay, what's a TEDx event? Could our office do that?
Hmm.
And so I learned along the way, like, no, it has to be an individual. It can't be related to an organization or anything like that. But once that idea was planted in me, I was like, okay, I'm very interested. I'm intrigued.
Yes.
And then when I saw Oshkosh was doing one, I was like, okay, I'm going to go. I'm going to see what a finished product looks like at that local level. And I applied to hold a TEDx event in Fond du Lac the next day.
Oh my gosh.
I was just that on fire. And so I got the application accepted, I believe a couple weeks later, started putting together a team of, friends and people that I knew in my professional life, that I knew would kind of fill that same passion of, ideas and putting them out into the world.
Right.
And then that's kind of just how it began. And
Wow.
yeah, so got that license in 2016, held the first event summer of 2017. And yeah, we held 3. We'll hold our 4th next year. And yeah,
That's so cool.
it's been a blast. I now have I started then going to the official TED conferences,
Oh
and
wow.
yeah, and actually like getting to meet people at TED and meet people from around the world. And it's this whole new experience. And to think that I have friends around the world, like that's awesome.
Well, yeah, and I just think of the knowledge you gain when you go to those things too and network. That's gonna be mind blowing. And plus then that probably, plant seeds for you.
It does. I always come back with a longer to-do list and a longer like wish list of things I want to do.
Right.
It's crazy.
But that's again just aiding to your, constantly growing mindset, which is, just phenomenal.
Yeah, it definitely is another catalyst for, that need to learn and grow.
Right.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that you applied for to come on Her Laundry Unfolded, because when I read your application, I was like, wow, with everything you've gone through, and now you're just you've created this platform, with TEDx to put people on stages and support them. So from going for someone who didn't feel supported to now being that huge support person for so many people, I just think that's such a great kind of evolution to make of yourself.
Yeah, it is an interesting full circle to become that supporter, because while I'm behind an event like that, it's the people that are on stage that I do it for.
Right.
And I need to make sure that all of the resources are lined up so that it all flows perfectly for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. I put on events before, but to do that, the TEDx is, 100 times more than the events that I've put on. So, I mean, huge props. I know it's a lot of work behind the scenes. They're not easy, and coordinating everything and lots of people involved. So
for sure. Yes. But it is just such a blast, and the end product makes every headache worth it.
I bet seeing it all come together and be like, I had a huge hand in this. This is fantastic. And look at the people who I've been able to showcase. And that's just awesome.
It is.
Yeah. So, here, I'm going to put up here real quick. If anyone wants to get in contact with you, I have your email. Make sure that that's correct. Sarah.
Yes.
sarah.spang@gmail.com if you'd like
Yeah.
to learn more about Sarah. Do you have any other projects coming up that you want to share? Or
I have a big one. I actually enrolled in school again.
Oh wow!
And actually today is my first day, and I've submitted my first assignments already.
Oh my gosh!
But I'm going for a doctorate in business administration.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! That's awesome.
It's a little crazy,
Hey,
but yeah, it just goes back to that. I had an idea. I have so many support systems in my life, and I just had to try. So,
right?
yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'm very nervous,
Yeah.
but also just so excited to see how these next few years go.
That's amazing. And I love the saying that if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough.
Absolutely. And this one terrifies me. So,
See? But look at how day one, you already submitted an assignment. It's like not even noon. So that's pretty impressive.
I think I'm doing okay.
I think you're going to do just great with this. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much again, Sarah, for coming on today and sharing your story.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to. And, if I can just, end with saying, where you are today is not going to be where you are tomorrow. So
Yeah.
always look to tomorrow.
Yes. Thank you. That's amazing advice. I love it. And Sarah, you're just the perfect poster child for that too, with everything you've gone through. And, it's when you were 16 at that point, you probably did not see yourself or have the foresight to say, I'm going to be getting my doctorate someday.
No.
Yeah. So you don't know where life is going to take you. So if you just, even at that rock bottom, you can only look up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Well, thank you again. We will see everybody else on next Monday at 11 a.m. every single Monday. So bye, everybody. Thanks again, Sarah.
Bye. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.